We're going to call our February meeting to order at 5:30 p.m. Roll call, okay.
Let the record show all commissioners are present.
Oh, the pledge, okay. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay. I don't believe there are any special presentations or proclamations tonight, right? Okay. Any oral communications? It would appear no. There are no changes to the agenda that I'm aware of. Staff, no changes, correct? Okay. Approval of the minutes. And I'll second.
I'll just go ahead and do a manual vote. Chair Lappin,
Yes.
Vice Chair Ritter,
Approve.
Commissioner Elliott,
Approve.
Commissioner Hanson, Commissioner O'Halloran,
Approved.
Commissioner Warren,
Approved.
and Commissioner Winters.
Approved.
Okay, the January 17, 2023 minutes are approved.
Oh, we're getting right to it tonight. I love that. Okay, work plan. Oh. This is new. Okay. I'm going to reorganize myself. Can I move this closer? Okay. Can everyone see the work plan? Okay. So our goal really is to sign off on these outcomes if possible. So if there's any feedback, now's our chance to provide it. So I'm happy to go. I can either read the goal and the outcomes, or we can read it ourselves and just discuss each one and make sure we're happy with it. Is there a preference? Read it out loud? No, the latter. Okay. So we'll all read. Let's read. Start with goal number 1, which were the annual tours. And if there's any feedback or changes you'd like to see made, just let us know.
And I'll just note as well that for any of the goals that we did not receive suggestions for ahead of time, we kind of synthesized what we've done so far. So any input that the commission has is welcome at this time.
Commissioners Warren or O'Halloran, is there anything you guys want to add to the park tour outcome? I think it was very well written. So thank you.
I'm okay with this. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Oh,
Yeah, there was, I had sadly submitted a suggestion on this late, so I apologize for doing that because it probably put staff under, I was just late in my submission, but I wanted to consider adding a final sentence to this one, which would be, commissioners recommend that City Council implement an additional security camera system at the Encinitas Senior Center.
So if I may,
You may.
Director Carlin, so typically speaking, this is an operational item, and it is something that staff would technically take care of. So we heard your recommendation, we heard some of the recommendations of the commission. We've actually put forward a budget item related to this through our IT department, and so that item has been taken care of at this point.
That's great. Thank you. Are we okay with that?
If you are, I am.
Okay. Well, I mean, it sounds like the goal was achieved, so I don't know if we need to note that for posterity or if we're,
Right, so the outcome should really relate to what the stated goal is.
okay.
The stated goal was to perform tours to basically highlight what the different areas of our Recreation and Parks Department is, and that was achieved.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Commissioner O'Halloran, is there anything you wanted to add or just feedback?
No, I think we're good.
Okay. awesome.
Can I just,
Yeah.
I'm fine with this, but if people are on this work plan item next year, maybe we consider an outcome, or a goal of submitting, feedback, just so we can, sort of normalize this, the idea of us making suggestions like Commissioner Winters said, where we say, okay, it's not just a one direction thing where we observe, but maybe we also, it's not expected, but if we want to, we can have it about particular items, and that way it would make more sense to have that in the outcome.
Or maybe what it leads to is the tour in 1 year leads to a new work plan item in the next.
Well, in general, I think the entire goal is to make suggestions to city council that could be accepted or could not be accepted. I think I've said that consistently for a couple of meetings now. In general, I don't think, in my opinion anyway, that the goal was just to take a tour. I think the goal was to take a tour and then perhaps make recommendations or suggestions based on the observation of that tour. If the goal is just to take a tour, that sort of seems, kind of silly, to my opinion. Like, what's the point of taking a tour? Okay, we took a tour, and if we saw horrible things, which we did not, then that we can't say that. And if we saw wonderful things, we shouldn't say that either. So I think it's kind of a silly stated goal in hindsight if, in fact, we can't make our final outcome any recommendations or suggestions. So I kind of disagree. I'm not trying to be argumentative with anybody. And this is kind of a common theme that I've been saying. And I think Commissioner Warren is, I don't want to put words in your mouth, is kind of echoing that. So if going forward, if our stated goal has to, at the end of all of these, say, and make recommendations, if any, then perhaps we adopt that as a standard operating procedure next year. But I don't see that the goal, even though it's written to take a tour, was the actual only goal. I think the goal was to take a tour, review the programs, and make suggestions or observations on it. So that's how I view it.
Okay. I mean, I definitely hear you. I would say I respectfully disagree because I think a tour is really valuable. In and of itself, like, I had no idea about the habitat restoration we were doing. I don't know all of the various elements of the Parks and Rec purview. So to have the opportunity with staff to go out on site and see these things and learn about it, I think it just makes us more valuable as commissioners to say, we spent the time, we did the work, we learned from staff about these aspects of Parks and Rec. So for me, this particular work plan item is actually really beneficial, and it's one of the few opportunities I think all of us have to go out and see what it is that staff does and is working on, and that we are really meant to be advocating on behalf of the community for and with. With that said, I do hear what you're saying, that these tours are sparking a lot of new information that could really warrant progress and further discovery. And not to speak on behalf of staff, but what I understand they're saying is that we're not saying not to do that. We're just saying you really need to define it at the outset of what it is you want to do so that we have a way to track it publicly for the record, that people know what we're discussing, we know what we're working on, and then there's opportunity for us to do something there. But what you're saying, they're achieving it, even though we're not writing it down. Like, we're saying we think there should be more security. That's what they need at the rec center, and they've already moved forward with trying to make that happen. So I don't want you to feel like there's nothing coming of this, is I guess what I'm saying. And maybe that's not, maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but I do think there's an opportunity for us to drive change. I just think it moves in a different, maybe a less linear path than what we're typically used to in terms of seeing an issue and solving it.
And if I may, I don't want to discount your recommendation because staff took your recommendation to heart. And we did meet with our IT staff, and we do have it in the budget request for next year.
Yeah, great. I appreciate that. Thank you. And that's why I'm okay with the final outcome as it is. I also concur that the tour was tremendously valuable. Everything from the habitat restoration that you were talking about to, even, if you recall, we sort of got, what's the positive word of accosted? Bombarded with pickleball players who kind of came to us and said, "What are you guys doing here? What is it? We love pickleball. We wish we had more." So that this type of tour was invaluable, I think, for all of us to really learn about what the community needs and wants. I'm just trying to find a way where we can convey what we've all learned to the rest of the community. I'm not so sure the final outcomes as they're written do convey that, but we
If I may, I have a compromise
Yeah.
that might get us to where we need to go. You could put in there that you made operational recommendations to staff.
Yeah, I mean,
Guess there were more than
was
one.
gonna suggest, feedback was offered to staff on various projects, including the junior lifeguard program, security cameras, we can throw it. I just want to make sure if I know the issue of security cameras seems to be resolved, but do you have interest in going on record here with the outcome as saying that we submitted some, we had some conversations about a few different things based on that tour?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm okay, and I appreciate that staff listened and that they put in the budget that the security cameras will be there. I think that's fantastic. So that's awesome, and I appreciate that. I mean, obviously, it's not for me; it's for everybody. It's for the city, and it's what staff wanted. So I'm glad that we're able to just support you in getting that. I don't. If the commission thinks that there's a broad sentence that accomplishes, we made recommendations, that's fine. I was just raising as a global theme. I think that the goal was more than just to take the tour. The tour was very, very valuable because of what we got out of it. So,
Yeah, I hear you, for sure. Commissioner Hanson.
So I used to go through this with my clients in public accounting where we would recommend changes to how they did things. And when a client implemented, we'd say recommendation was implemented. So if you want to be specific about the cameras, that's fine, but cities dealt with it. Something along those lines. So you said, we observed and recommended security cameras, and we understand they're in the works.
again, that's fine if somebody wants to suggest that. I'm just happy that the cameras are going in, and I think Commissioner Warren made a suggestion, which was a good one, as an interim step of, and it might be similar to what Director Carlin said, which was that suggestions were made to staff, some of which have already been implemented. I don't know how specific you want to get. If you want to get very specific or not specific, it's okay with me. I'm also ready to move on to the next one. So.
But I think it's valid what you are saying, which is, and this is a question to staff, and I hope I'm not misspeaking here, but next year on the work plan, is there a way for us as a result of these tours, and as we learn more about Parks and Rec, or we hear feedback or issues, is there a way for us to hold space on the work plan for exploring or making recommendations for those things? Because I know a big one that came up this year was on the Parks tour. Rec tour, where we learned about how the wait list works as just one example. And it felt like there could be alternative ways for us to solve the problem of handling, let's just say, wait lists. That came out. The security camera was something that came out. There were a number of things that we learned about on the tour that we would like to be able to continue advocating for or following up on, but it's not necessarily called out ahead of the tour on the work plan. So is there a recommendation for, if this is something that we want to look into and have open to us next year, is there a path that you would recommend us following?
Sure, and remember, the commission's role is to advise the city council, usually on policy or procedures. This is an operational item, and that's why I'm stating it the way that I am, is because it's up to staff to identify that we may have an issue with security, and to ask for that, and we did. And for the most part, all the things that were talked about during the tour were done at the operational level.
Yeah, okay.
So
I
it doesn't
see.
need to be taken to the council level yet, unless you feel like something's not happening, or you need to make a recommendation on a policy related to security or security cameras at the facility.
Can you, without putting you totally on the spot, can you give us an example of what a procedure
Sure.
might
So
be?
I'll give an example.
Okay.
One of the things that, I'll go from the policy standpoint.
Okay.
One of the things that we're going to be doing later on this year is we're going to be updating our field use policy.
Right.
This commission is a perfect sounding board on what that commission, what that policy looks like. Also, being able to hear the public, because I'm sure that we're going to hear from some of the youth sports organizations when we're ready to roll with that. So that is one example. Trail naming, when we come up with trail naming. We've also talked about open space acquisition. Those types of things are things that we need the commission to advise on. When it comes time to purchasing a security system, that's operational. We work through the budget. And we do that through the budget process. We put forward a statement of why that's needed, and then we push it forward, and the council makes a decision on that.
Got it. Okay. Thank
So-
you very much.
and I do also want to add, we did add security up at the community and senior center, an active person that comes in as a security guard each day and works randomly throughout the week. And from a person who has managed city facilities for over 20 years, that is a much more effective approach if we had to do one thing or another to make sure that we're adding a deterrent there rather than being reactive on the back end where we have to check cameras. Because all really checking cameras is just identification of the person or identification of what they do. What we're doing is a more proactive approach right now where we have somebody in there that's helping out with that. But that being said, we also did request that in the budget next year.
Okay. Is that clear to everyone? Ready to move on? Okay, great. Number 2. Does anyone have any changes they'd like to see made here? Well, I'm happy with it. Okay, I'll take your silence as agreement.
Chair Lapin?
Yes.
I just want to say to Ross, and I know Dave helped out and several others, your pop-up park was incredible. Great idea. I'm so happy that you were able to do it, and I think it's definitely an example of something that we can do in the future at other events. So everybody who helped out with that, wonderful job.
I'll second that.
Commissioner O'Halloran and Commissioner Hanson and Commissioner Elliott, they all did a lot more than I did. I have to own up to that. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to work plan item number 3 regarding the guest speakers for monthly meetings. Is there any feedback from the commissioners serving on the ad hoc?
I think it's good. I sent in a delayed request, and it was just to add some names, you know, to identify some actual humans who spoke to us, because it seemed to read like, it was always staff, and I just like to, I like to give credit to the folks who take time out of their regular routine to come and present to us. So, you know, like to put Nick Buck in there, or to put the guy in from Outer Spatial, I think his name, yeah, Zach Locke. You know, if we could get some names in there, great. If it's too much trouble, I totally understand. You know, we certainly got the gist of most of the presentations that were made during the year. I don't know. Commissioner Hanson, how do you feel about it? Or Commissioner Winters, anybody? Dennis? What do you think down there?
I'm fine with how it's written, but I'm also happy to support additional acknowledgement if that's important to you.
We're good. Okay, great. Number 4, best practices for diversity, equity, and inclusion. This was Vice Chair Ritter and myself. I'm going to reread it, but I think I'm okay with it. I just see a small typo that I probably sent to you in the second sentence. The ad hoc recommend, it should just be recommended, a language audit.
We can make that edit.
Okay. Any other feedback or thoughts? There's a lot of run-on sentences, so grammatically it's probably not my best work, but hopefully it gets the gist across.
Vice Chair Ritter here. I'm fine with it. I think it looks good.
Okay, so we'll move to number 5. Number 5, volunteer recruitment and implementation.
I'm sorry, we're reading it. I'll wait.
There's an extra other in that first sentence, just for. Were we able to do anything with this or not yet? Like the website's not ready for that yet.
So I do have a report on this. We do have a recreation supervisor, Clinton Calkins. He was working on an application for this, and he did send that over to the managers and administrators in the department this last week, so they're looking over that. The next step is to really build the website, our web page, and then get this application up, and then also for the different managers and administrators to make sure that they're listing all of the volunteer opportunities that we have in the department.
Okay, thank you. Oh, sure, go ahead.
So the first other would be struck to make that correct. But one of the benefits I saw from this, from my exploration, was a lot of the cities, or the few cities that do use this software, it's not easy to find. So I recommended to Clinton and Tracy to make it as visible as possible on just about any page you can. Because I found that I had to drill down like 5 or 6 steps down to actually find where to sign up. So that was a real weakness with the others I viewed.
I just want to make sure we presented our research at our meeting, and being that Manager Staten is no longer with the city, I think Clinton has that, but if you could ask him and just make sure that he has our research, because I think that there's some good information that Commissioner Hanson and I put together.
Sure, we can do that. Would you like to offer a sentence at the end that summarizes meeting and providing those recommendations, particularly about making sure that the sign-up is easy to find? And we can, if you give me something discrete here, I can watch back the meeting and add it to the final notes.
So the other thing too, I just want to mention, as you're going to start brainstorming for the next session, I think there's some additional work that can be done on this one from a commissioner perspective. So this would be one that we might want to explore moving forward, because there are some work plan outcomes that could come from this that we would definitely like to have input from the commission on.
Yeah, I would just add something to the effect of the commission noted that other cities using the software, God, how do I want to put this? There was difficulty encountered in finding the sign-up forms on Volgistics through the other city websites. So my recommendation is to make it as visible as possible and on several pages, not just one.
Do you also just want to note that you did that you sat down with staff to share your findings? One of the many recommendations being that they should make sure that the volunteer signups are quite visible. Well, thank you guys for that contribution. I feel like I wasn't as across that particular work plan item, so I'm happy to hear that it was a productive outcome for that. Okay, are we ready to move on? Number 6. Okay. Continue support of patrons of Encinitas Parks as they continue support of Parks and Rec. So I'll let you read it, but Commissioners Warren or Hanson, I'll just ask if you have any feedback or if you're good with this language. Did you guys mention last time that you were discussing additional ways, though, to make PEP fundraising more visible through like QR codes and? Oh, you didn't. Okay.
It did briefly come up, and we had mentioned that PEP is working on their website, which would better enable donations and things like that.
Got
that
it.
we
Thank
can carry
you.
forward.
Okay. Should we note that PEP has a new president? It feels relevant, doesn't it?
That's support. If that's not support, then I don't know what is.
Yeah, exactly. Are you, when you reference the PEP president, is that you that you're referencing? Oh, well then may we just make note that PEP has new leadership who is actively engaged in reinvigorating the organization, driving fundraising, being compliant, and has already received its first donation. And has applied for a grant. I think we should note those things. Well, you tell me if they're relevant, but I think that those are really big supportive actions of the commission with PEP.
Yes, we can include that.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
Should we add the word "N" between "in" and "effort"?
Yes.
Yes.
I'm like, wow, we're moving very fast on these. Okay, number 7, research and planning for outdoor adult fitness equipment. So that was Commissioners Winters, Elliott, and Vice Chair Ritter.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very happy with the language on this. I think Vice Chair Ritter submitted most of it, and we're very grateful to him. Thanks.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I do agree with Commissioner Elliott that I'm satisfied with the language.
May I ask what's next? Like, what's next year's work plan? Do we know, or am I leading?
Next year, our hope is that we'll work with the city consultants.
Okay.
That once they decide who that's going to be, and then we will work with them to come up with some ideas as to what type of equipment that we might like to see there, in addition to the playground equipment that they would
Okay.
install. So kind of being involved in that process.
Okay. Policy-wise, is this something that is operational, so we as a department can do what we want, or would something like this have to go through city council at some point?
So final design will be approved by city council, but but you could, if this is something that, I shouldn't say if, we know that adult fitness is something that's important to the group, and having, maybe some public outreach, that kind of thing, to make an informed decision on like the type of equipment that might be part of a playground replacement. That's definitely like the type of thing that we would need an advisory body to do, to hear public comment, and make a recommendation on that.
And I'll just add to that. If we do a typical playground replacement and it's pretty close to like for like, that's kind of maintenance operations. But because we're including new amenities and likely a different design, then that also will align more closely with the purview of the commission.
Okay, thank you. Any other feedback or thoughts on this particular work plan item? Okay, great. So we'll move to item number 8, which was the Trails Master Plan. Commissioners Warren or Winters, do you have anything you'd like to see changed or added?
No, I'm happy. I like that there's some examples in there. But yeah, I feel good about this.
Okay.
Do we still need like the 1.2A, both in the outcome and in the goal? Because it looks like we're not referencing anything else besides Trails Master Plan at this time. So I don't know if they could clean that up or if it's good as is.
I would say that we would need to keep it in the stated goal because that's how it was originally written. It doesn't necessarily need to be in the outcome. That could be a cleanup.
And it's probably good for just to keep that format, because going forward, you may have other elements under the master plan listed in that category.
And remember, the 1.2A relates directly back to the number in the master plan. Yep.
One comment I would make too, when we set up the pop-up park at Cyclovia, a signage was provided that provided a QR code to allow residents to download the app. And I used that as an educational tool, and people got really excited about that it was available. It was an opportunity for them to learn that this app was out there, and I would strongly recommend kind of using that signage again at future events that the Parks and Rec Department ends up participating in, because it's something that it's like a takeaway almost. It's something that they can download. It's almost better than something that you could give them off the table. It's something that they can take with them on their phones and then hopefully use in their lives once they've left the event.
Thank you. Commissioner Winters, do you want to add something? Okay. Okay, awesome. So that's the work plan. Oh, we vote, okay. So we know there are going to be a few small edits. Can we still vote knowing that there'll be some small changes?
Yeah, I think you would need to make a motion that you would approve as noted during discussions.
Okay. So I will make a motion to approve as noted during discussion.
And I'll second.
Okay, I'll go ahead and take a vote for the 2022-23 work plan. Do a manual vote. Chair Lappin,
I move to approve.
Vice Chair Ritter,
Approved.
Commissioner Elliott,
Approved.
Commissioner Hanson,
Approved.
Commissioner O'Halloran,
Approved.
Commissioner Warren,
Approved?
and Commissioner Winters.
Approved.
All right, the work plan is approved.
Okay, Parks Operation Report.
Okay, thank you. As I get into the park operations report, I just wanted to say thank you to all the commissioners for all of your hard work and dedication through this work plan year. And to our outgoing commissioners, thank you so much. I hope we see you in the community. To the commissioners that are staying on, think hard about what you want to do in the next work plan year. We'll have several new commissioners the next time that we meet. I'll be meeting with them to do an orientation before their next meeting to kind of go through Brown Act and Robert's Rules of Order expectations and things like that. So it'll be a great time for them to come on board and begin ideas for the next work plan and working through that. So I know we have time tonight, but I think it's really important for them as new commissioners to come in and be able to start fresh. For the park operations report, I'm happy to note that the the backstops at Cardiff Sports Park have been completed. They look awesome. So if you get a chance before we get weather to go out there and take a look at them, they look great. Opening day is scheduled for this coming Saturday, which may be postponed based on weather. So we're very happy to have those up and running. Last week, Council approved an amendment to our contract with the San Diego Botanic Garden for the Habitat Stewardship Program. This amendment will add funding for an additional year of maintenance at the Cottonwood Creek site that we saw during the parks tour, and also add scope for the Moonlight Beach parcels area for weed removal and planting of native species. And so this is the parcel where the tennis court is. And we're looking forward to kicking this work off. I recently saw some historic photos of the parcel from one of the members of the Cottonwood Creek Conservancy prior to the removal of the giant arundo patch that was in there. And I'm just really excited for this work to keep moving forward with, the historical work that's taken place by so many others, including the Cottonwood Creek Conservancy. So if you haven't ever seen any of those photos, it's worth trying to dig some up. I'm not sure that I have them, but I could reach out to them. The entire parcel was overrun with arundo, which looks like a kind of corn-type species, and it's almost impenetrable. So it has a long way to go yet, but I think we have some good plans in place to continue to beautify that space. And then lastly, for my report, in our last meeting during public comment, we heard about Trail 74, 75, and the county landfill site. And as a quick recap, Trail 74 was shown on the master plan as the trail that leads up to the landfill site, and 75 is the trail that encircles the landfill site. And I also want to note that the Trails Master Plan includes categories for Category 1, 2, and 3 in terms of importance of execution. Category 1 includes Trail 74, which leads up to the landfill site. And just for a sense of scale, there are 65 total trails in Category 1. So I just want to make sure that everybody understands that while it is one of the highest priorities, it is not the actual highest priority right now. And Trail 75, which encircles the landfill site, is in Category 3. So I think even when the Trails Master Plan was put together, it was recognized that this is owned by another entity, which has a completely different land use at the time. And so if that land use were to ever change, boy, we'd sure like to have an effort there. The landfill is owned and managed by the County Department of Public Works. The county's capital improvement needs assessment is used to plan all upcoming capital projects for each of the departments. The current version of the CENA was approved by the Board of Supervisors in March of 2022, and it lists the landfill project and has 2 funding requests under the County Department of Parks and Recreation. The first is a funding request in fiscal year 23-24 for design and environmental analysis of a park on that property, and with a subsequent request in fiscal year 26-27 for construction. If funded, the County Department of Public Works and County Parks would use the funds to initiate design, including public outreach. Because it's a landfill site, DPW would also need to work through the state for relevant permits and a land use change. The city would also coordinate with the county at that time to implement trails as well as public outreach and what the local community wants to see. Opening the trails prior to the county project is currently not feasible due to the county's ownership and the other access controls that are in place. I understand that folks have made their way onto the property, but I would caution that those are unauthorized and trespassing at this time. This concludes my report.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I've got just a question or two. First of all, thanks very much. You were, Manager Norgard was extremely prompt in providing a lot of information back to a couple of people that had asked about it, so I really appreciate that very much, and it was very informative, and sometimes these reports are even pretty difficult to understand, so I also appreciate you providing a Cliff Notes version so that we were able to really understand what was in that. I had one question. In your experience or in general, over time, whether that's 5 years or 10 years, would that land ever be, for lack of a better word, ceded to the city from the county? Will it always be kind of county land? Kind of how does it, as it gets developed and explored, I understand there's going to be an integration of ideas, but how does it kind of ultimately maybe get either maintained or owned or what have you?
I think there's two cases where this could happen. The first and most specific being that because it's a current landfill site and a closed landfill, and the way that the permits work with the state for specifically closed landfills, I would not foresee that land being in any way given to the city and likely always managed by the county. So if they turn it into a park, it would be county park staff that do the actual maintenance of it. More broadly, if it were not a landfill or property with other underlying entitlements, it is possible that the county could turn something over. My time at the county has informed me that that's not likely. Like other jurisdictions, their general plan informs that they need certain totals of park acreages and trails and things like that. So by keeping those within their portfolio, it gets them closer to meeting their general plan goals. That said, there are land swaps that happen and things like that, but specifically for the landfill parcel, I would say that it's highly unlikely that it would change hands.
So if the county did end up deciding to develop it with community input, since it was a landfill, then perhaps it would just be a trail type of land, or could it also become a park where there could be athletic fields and things like that there based upon whether we could have sufficient parking and access? I'm just kind of curious, whether 10 years down the road that, maybe this might be a new park site for the residents to enjoy, understanding that it most likely would be under the county, like the San Diego County Park that's just south of us.
Sure, that's a good question. Probably a little more technical than I could get into here. I think it would depend a lot on what's under the land, how is it sitting, geotechnical analysis and all those things. I think we're all familiar with landfills throughout the country that have been converted to parks very successfully. Some of those are active use parks. Some of them are more passive. I suspect that when the county initiates public outreach, a lot of folks around town are going to say, hey, we want some active recreation. And then I think that will come down to what is the county's budget. And so if including sports fields and things like that are $100 million, less likely. So I think they'll have to do their own pro-con needs analysis on that.
Do you have an update on, was it Stone Steps?
Yes, good question. I met with the latest contractor last week at Stone Steps. They wanted to get out there to verify their materials, and still working to get a final proposal from them, which includes their scope and fee. Excuse me. Right now, the bottleneck in the critical path is the material suppliers. So all of the brackets that hold all of the different wood members together have to be custom fabricated. And it's not something that you can just get from Hilti or at HD Supply or something like that. So they're all custom fabricated. And then once they're manufactured, they need to be sent out to be hot dip galvanized per the specifications. And so they're working through getting those quotes from those two suppliers. And once they do, they'll wrap them into their final bid, and then we'll be able to put together a schedule as to when they can get out there to do it. And the limiting factor there may or may not be the low tide, depending on how they determine they're going to access the site.
Thank you. Good luck. Any other questions? Okay. We'll move on to the Recreation Services Report. And welcome back, Director Carlin. It's been a long time. We're happy to see you.
Thank you. I'll do a quick update on the recreation side of things. First of all, I want to thank the outgoing commissioners for their service here to the city of Encinitas. Marla, you've been on the commission since I started here, so we've been on the path the whole time. So it's sad to see you go, and I got to do a little bit of an outgoing with Marla. A couple weeks ago, I did a presentation to the Rotary on our department, and I was a little long-winded, so I didn't get through my whole presentation, but I hope that they learned some stuff about the department and the city.
They loved you, and they'll have you back.
Okay. I'll start up where I left off. So that was great. And Dave, one thing I remember about you is helping us out with our bike video, and we were very appreciative of all your work on that, and with the pickleball group folks. Awesome job. And Courtney, it was great that you were willing to step in as the chair so shortly after you joined us on the commission, and we're sad to see you go. And we really appreciate all that you've done for the commission and leading the whole commission this last year. And I do have certificates for each one of you as well, so I'll give those to you. Besides that, we did just finish our first part of our budget process, and that's really looking at our operations budgets and working with the different departments. One of the big ones for our department this year is Pacific View, and really identifying the FF&E for that facility and making sure that we have all the operations calculated out for the opening of that facility. That facility is slated to open in summer of 2024. So in order to get ready for that, we have to have some things in place. So we did work quite diligently on that. Staff did a really good job of getting all of their requests in on time, and so we're in the review stage of the budget of the budgeting process. In addition to that, we will be moving into the CIP portion of our budgeting. A lot of our CIP is going to be some things that we need to roll over or deferred maintenance type things. So we definitely have some playground replacements and such on the horizon for us. In addition, we have the Senior Expo are coming to us on Saturday, February 25th. This is a partnership with the Encinitas Chamber. That event is happening from 9 to 1 at the Community and Senior Center on the 25th. And the senior commissioners will be having a booth at that event as well, where they'll highlight our department as it relates to senior citizens. We also have Art Night that's coming up on March 4th. And then following that, we have a rec guide that will be coming out that same weekend, and registration for spring programs and summer camps will begin on March 6th. So that includes the beloved junior lifeguard program, Beach Kids, all the summer camps that we offer will be coming out in that guide. And we just encourage people to make sure that they have their accounts set up ahead of time and register early, because things fill up on the first day. Besides that, we are in desperate need of help with our senior nutrition program. So if you know anybody, even retiree, who needs a part-time job, we're looking for individuals to serve as nutrition aid. And position is basically taking phone calls and making reservations for us, also helping out with serving food and helping out in our kitchen with like cleaning dishes and such. So that it pays between $17, $15, and $19 an hour, and we are definitely on the look for somebody that can help us out with that. Other than that, that is the end of my report.
Thank you. There are no commission member, well, okay, there were none. No future agenda items, I don't believe either. Oh, the commission reports. Okay. I think we should start with Commissioner Elliott, just to really show our respect and appreciation for her 2 terms of service.
Oh, thank you. That's very sweet of you. Yeah, 6 whole years. So much value in that, primarily entertainment. But I must say I've learned a lot as well. And what I've learned primarily is that the wheels of government do indeed grind very slowly. So the things that you're working on now may not come to fruition as fast as you would like, but sometimes they do, and sometimes it's before the end of your tenure, and sometimes it's a little further down the line. But that doesn't in any way diminish the value of what you do here, and you have to just sort of plow through that. So it's kind of like raising kids, a lot of frustrations, a lot of joy, but overall it's more than worth it. I would encourage anybody out there who's considering it to definitely step up and render this kind of service if you feel your heart's in it, because it is very rewarding. There were many opportunities along the way, and fortunately many accomplishments along the way. So I feel very good about the 6 years I've spent here. And of course, like any scenario, any work environment, the most wonderful memories will be of all the commissioners that I've worked with, and the staff, and the 2 directors, and everyone has been such a joy, and I've learned so much from all of them and all of you. So thank you for your service, and don't ever think that it is anything less than appreciated by the city and by each other and by staff, because it is a valuable thing that you do here. Thanks.
Very well said, thank you. Commissioner Hanson, you want to go next? Okay, I'll come back to you. Okay.
It's just pulling back the tears.
Oh, there are tissues.
I know, it's, we were really starting to gel as a team, and it's a shame to see some of it getting picked apart and free agents going off to bigger and better things. Like happens in football, happens in baseball, it's got to happen here too. Just thank you so much for all you've done, Marla and Courtney and David, and best wishes. Hope to see you.
Commissioner O'Halloran.
I just want to say, thank you to you, Courtney and Marla and David, for everything that you've done for the city of Encinitas, Parks and Recreation, showing me the ropes in my first term. You really set the bar high on how to work with city staff and represent our citizens in our Parks and Recreation. So thank you all so much.
Commissioner Warren.
Okay. So 4 years, because if everyone doesn't know, I filled a vacancy, so I did a year and then I did a term. And I don't know if that means I can't do another term in 10 years or not, but it was really fun. And after a couple years, I remember Commissioner Winters or Commissioner O'Halloran, calling me and saying, can we do this? Can we do that? And I was feeling more confident. I'd be like, yeah, man, you get what you put into it, and just, you can have meetings, schedule all the meetings you want. And it was fun. And I think there are a few areas where we had a lot of success. in some of our work projects. I have a little thing to thank each commissioner, not too long, but since everyone's thinking of the outgoing, Steve, you have great questions and desire to bring in experts when we feel as a commission we need to be more informed. That is your bullet point. Chair Lappin, her smart and efficient way of approaching projects and her desire to make our city as eco-friendly as possible. Commissioner Al Halloran, I know you're very busy, so your commitment and your determination to follow through with commission recommendations. I know that you're a stickler for that. Vice Chair Ross, or Commissioner Ross, as I used to call you, right? Commissioner Ritter, Vice Chair Ritter, pushing the capabilities and scope of what we can accomplish as a commission. So I love that because we were always saying, can we do this? How far can we go? What can we accomplish? And of course, Commissioner Elliott, warm, personable, and experienced, very young, but experienced. Yeah. And a great proofreader, too. And Commissioner Hanson, taking on leadership and always reminding us what a great city we live in. So, thank you. And opening day is on Saturday for SDYS softball. My wife is coaching. My daughter is playing. The Raspberries are playing at 5 o'clock. If you all want to come, if we want to do a little thing, I know we're at, making it about me. It really should be about Mr. Elliott. But I just wanted to thank Manager Carlin and Nogard. It's been very informative. You guys are great to work with. You've had a lot of turnover. I know that's hard, but as a result, we did get to work with lots of variety of managers. But thank you very much, and I hope to maybe come back at some point.
Thank you. Commissioner Winters?
It might start to sound repetitive at this point, but obviously, thanks very much to all of the outgoing commissioners. In their own way, you've all provided a lot of guidance and encouragement to the newer commissioners as well, and I think that's important. I think you've also we fostered a really nice degree of, I don't even want to say debate, but just discussion, which I think is important because we're different people with different ideas, but I think ultimately the same goal. And I somebody, I believe it was Martin Luther King who said, we may have come here in a different ship, but we're all in the same boat now. And we are in the same boat in terms of trying to do the best we can for the Parks and Rec Department. So I believe that. So I just thank you all for your leadership, and hopefully we'll continue making great improvements to our city. So thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Ritter?
Well, this is definitely going to start to sound repetitive. No, I would like to second, third, fourth, fifth, all the good feelings and respect and admiration for the outgoing commissioners. Thank you very much for your service. I did want to offer to Manager Norgard that during that opportunity where you're going to meet with the new commissioners coming in, that if you think it appropriate to have a commissioner come in and just be someone that they'll be working with in the future, I certainly would be happy to volunteer to do that. One of the things that Commissioner Elliott did for me when I first signed on is she contacted me and said, hey, let's go do coffee. And it enabled me to spend a little time with her. She was able to kind of help me get a bit of a understanding, a little bit of a scope as to what the commission's about, how it works. So, and then just to have a friendly face when you kind of show up that first day with a bunch of strangers who eventually all become your friends. So I think that was a valuable lesson that I would certainly like to carry on that Commissioner Elliott started with me. But other than that, it is sad to be breaking up the team because I think we've had a great team. And I'm glad that some of the players are still here, and I'm excited about the new people coming in as well. It's always great to invigorate with some new blood, some new ideas, and I think that we can continue to build on what we've already done here. Thank you.
I'm going to start in the traditional way with some feedback on just various things from the community, and then I'm going to move into this phase of my my roundtable report. I just wanted to say that I was at the dog park today, and it looks great despite all the rain. And I know there have been a number of closures and whatnot, but I just wanted to share in case you guys haven't been out there recently. It still looks like it's in really good shape, and there's always people out there using it, enjoying it, appreciating it. So I just thank you, because I know it's not easy to maintain that space, especially through the weather we've been having lately. So thank you. I was also at Glen Park yesterday, which was more crowded than I think I've seen it in months. So it's just nice to see that there's still so many people out taking advantage of the parks and the resources. Actually, I was at Encinitas Community Park today, also very crowded, lots of parties happening. And I overheard a conversation between two totally unconnected people talking about how Olympus Park was like the greatest park, just really positive feedback. And having come from a place where we didn't have all of these resources and assets, it's something that I try to constantly remind myself is such a privilege to have access to, and a city who invests so heavily in maintaining and continuing to build. So to staff, thank you. I also spoke to someone who told me his wife has a reminder for midnight to sign up for junior guards. So thank you, because I know it's not easy to put on the programs and to maintain the spaces, and especially when you're constantly working through new people in a pandemic and other casual things like that. So thank you for all your commitment and devotion. And what an opportunity this has been. I have personally learned so much about the process involved and just advocating for change within a community. And I got involved in this commission because it felt like it wasn't enough to feel strongly about things politically, but you actually had to get involved in and be a part of a change that you wanted to see within a community. And while my personal life has taken up more time than I feel like I can continue to commit right here, right now, I will take what I've learned from this commission and continue to use it to advocate for all of the things that I know I personally care about and support. And I just thank all of you for your role in taking the time out of your busy lives to care, and to not be satisfied just sitting on the sidelines, and to want to be involved and to make this place better. So thank you all for caring as much as you do. And I guess with that, I will adjourn my final meeting. So thank you. And I'm going to do this.